It's the old one too. It's the old one too. It's the old one too wrestling podcast. It's the old one too. It's the old one too. It's the old one too wrestling podcast. How's it going, everybody? This is Jay Grani here for the 012 Pro Wrestling Podcast on WrestlingWithWrestling.com. My guest today, Crane, Texas's own, the Lone Star Curt Stallion. How you doing today?
Brother, I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. You know, it's a nice spring day here in the Carolinas. I hear you're shoe shopping.
Yeah, it's so funny that you called right now because in my head, I knew today, like I've got it set up. I even had an alarm wake me up this morning that said podcast at noon. But for some reason, I had it in my head that it was going to happen at 3 p.m. today. So all day I'm waiting for 3 p.m. to roll around. It just, poof, there it is. Hell yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a very forgetful day, you know. So a lot of people are having hard times remembering things.
Hell yeah.
No.
We won't go too far, but hell yeah.
Cool. Well, you had the chance to go down to New Orleans for WrestleMania weekend, and I was wondering, did you have the chance to set up that shopping booth you wanted to set up on Bourbon Street?
No, dude, no. I made the mistake of asking one of the commission people. I was like, hey, if I were to do this, blah, 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 and there's like, you'll be revoked from any wrestling until this entire weekend if you go around chopping fans. And I was like, oh, shit.
Did you see the Mojo Rawley chop video?
No, I did not.
Oh, yeah. He chopped the shit out of a fan, I guess, WrestleMania night on Sunday night down on Bourbon Street. And the fan was asking for
awesome.
it. Yeah, it was crazy. But you were down there. You wrestled for Crash, and you also wrestled on Joey Janela's Spring Break as a part of the clusterfuck. Dan Severn, Mikey Whipwreck, Hornswoggle. It indeed was a clusterfuck. How was it putting a match like that together?
Well, I was hanging out with Riddle and Silas Young, who I brought from the Ring of Honor show over there, and we were outside for quite a while. And then when I walked inside, Ethan Page was like, "Hey, you're coming in at this point, and you can do this, and this, or whatever you want to do, and then you're the first one out." And I was just like, all right, so it was really easy, honestly. Like, putting the whole thing together, though, was probably pretty frustrating because Ethan Page was the one that decided to take liberties and put the whole thing together. So he had his phone out, and he was like, he had everybody's name in order and, like, who was doing what and yada, yada. And everybody was just kind of waiting for him to finish up. Like, they'd throw input when they had it. But he did a pretty good job of getting that shit put together, other than, I keep saying shit. Is it okay if I say that?
Cool with me, man.
Okay, hell yeah. I just realized, I was like, I'm swearing. I need to stop that, but I'm ignorant as hell. So, anyways, yeah, Ethan Page put most of that match together, and he did a really good job doing it. It just ran a little long, but that wasn't anybody's fault. That was to be expected with how many people were in there. For sure.
Did you have a chance to go down and party a little bit at Bourbon Street, or was it just kind of work?
But I was on Bourbon Street every single night I was there. Like, even when I didn't want to go to Bourbon Street, I was like, man, I bet there's some cool people at Bourbon right now. So I forced myself down there. I was only staying like a mile away. But it was definitely, because I went to WrestleMania 30. That was like my first WrestleMania, my first like wrestling trip going anywhere cool for wrestling, and I wasn't even in wrestling at that point. I was, but I was only training. Like, I hadn't had my first match. So that was like a wild experience, and I always wanted to go back to New Orleans and then go back this time, and actually being one of the guys that people were walking up to buying drinks for instead of the other way around. Like, that was a fascinating experience for myself.
Nice. And after the fun on Bourbon Street, you weren't done. You went up to CZW's Best of the Best. You wrestled Wheeler Yuta and from MLW and Michinoku Dojo, right? And Matt Riddle. CZW is known for having their crowd be kind of hard to win over and get over. Do you feel like you guys were able to do that?
Well, we were. I'll say yes, but we were put in a tough position because I remember when I got there, DJ was like, "Welcome to CZW, Curt. Your first match." And I was just like, "Wow, okay, cool." And so having Riddle in the match automatically made it like that's an easy out in terms of like if the match is over or not, just because the fact that he was in it, everybody loved that aspect of it. You know what I mean? So me and Yuta had to work a little harder to get anywhere close to a fucking reaction like Riddle was getting, but and we didn't. But it's because it's Matt Riddle. He's the fucking man right now. We had a good match. There was like one little slip up at the end where he went for a crossbody and I went to catch him and it was kind of sandbagged. And anyways, other than that, like it was good. Riddle liked the match, so I was really mad at not being like the match. You know what I mean? That's
for sure.
Cool. I enjoyed it.
Well, before all these, WrestleMania weekend, before Best of the Best tournament, you probably started out as a fan. Like, what was your first memory, or who do you think showed you wrestling for the first time? Was it a family member, a friend?
Who showed me wrestling for the first time?
Yeah.
When I was in third grade, one of my best friends, like I'm from a small town, so all my friends, like we all went to elementary, middle school, and high school together, and like went off to college together, and like we're like brothers, like we've just known each other our whole lives. My buddy in third grade named Cristobal Salcedo, or everybody just called him Balls. Balls showed me wrestling. I used to make fun of him and tell him it was fake and lame because I didn't have a dad growing up, and it was just my mom, and she hated that shit, so I didn't know any better. The day that I went to his house with him, whenever he would disappear on Mondays at 7 because he'd watch WCW for an hour and WCW for the other 2 hours, I went to his house sometime and I remember watching it, and I was just like, by the time the show was over, I was like, wow, like, this is fucking awesome. And I couldn't stop. Ever since I used to hide it from my mom, like I would secretly watch it. And then when I moved in with my grandma when I was in 6th grade because my mom and stepdad and sisters moved off, and I didn't want to leave my friends because they're just like the most important thing in the world to me. So I stayed with them, and it's been wrestling. Like my entire everything has just been wrestling mindset, thought process, because of how much I loved going over to my buddy Balls' house and watching fucking wrestling with him. And I still to this day am like, man, like I wish I would have started even younger than what I did, just because like I was stubborn and didn't know any better that like wrestling was so fucking cool. But I was just going off what my mom said. Lame.
So like, who were the guys that hooked you? Like you said, WCW, WWF at the time. Who were your favorites?
Honestly, like anytime I hear somebody say this, I always think they're full of shit. And 100% was he made it so real to me. Him and Hardcore Holly, I loved them so much. They made it so fucking like I was like, there's no way they're faking it. Like they're killing that guy, and I thought that was so cool. And whenever I started realizing that, like the fact that these guys were suspending my disbelief, that made it that much cooler. I was like, man, like how do they do it? And then once I got into it, those are the guys that I would like watch and study. Try to imitate, I guess, you know what I mean? They're just their relentlessness, their aggression, they fucking like they mean it, and that's how I like to wrestle too.
Hell yeah! Do you remember how good the Best of 7 series Booker T and Chris Benoit was on Nitro?
Yes, fuck yeah! Oh my god, dude! I can remember specifically where I was watching like 2 or 3 of those fucking matches, like sitting there and just like, oh my god, dude. They need to say, oh, well, I can't. And I was going to say they need to release a Benoit DVD, but yeah, fuck.
Yeah, totally, yeah. But so how did you go from watching Nitro at Balls' house to, it's your trainer Michael Elgin and Glory Pro?
Well, I remember I was going to a technical college in Marshall, Texas, and my buddy Balls, he hit me up and he's just like, you gotta come home. And I was like, why? And he was just like, there's wrestling here, dude. There's a ring. It's real. They're training. Like, everything. It's all there. And I was like, done. Like, I told him to send me a picture the next day. He sent me a picture, and I just dropped everything. I moved back home, and I started training. And I kind of, I guess, peaked early there because nobody there was really reputable or worthy of fucking training in the first place. So I got all I could out of that place real quick, and I saw a sponsored ad on Facebook, and it was like, come train with current Ring of Honor champion Michael Elgin in his place, his school in St. Louis for a week, $300. And I was like, oh, I'd never been anywhere further than Oklahoma City, and I'd never gone anywhere further than 4 hours, like, by myself. And I went to training the next day, and I asked people, hey, y'all want to go to this camp? And everybody's like, you shouldn't do that. It's blah, blah, blah. It's too experienced for you. And I was like, it says all experience welcome right here. And nobody wanted to go. They all pitched out. So I went by myself. I did this week-long camp. And I learned more in that week than I had in the entire year and a half I was in Texas. So that got me a spot in Ring of Honor in San Antonio a few months later. And then after that Ring of Honor spot, Elgin just asked me straight up, what are you going to do, like, with your career, with your life? What's the plan? And I was just like, well, I was going to move to Austin. I figured that'd be cool. And he's just like, fuck that. Move to St. Louis and train with me. And I was like, okay. So I dropped fucking everything. I had a girlfriend for 7 years. I had a job. Like, the chick, I left her because she gave me the ultimatum, me or wrestling. And I was like, wrestling's not making me pick between the two things I love, so I'm going to pick that one. And I dropped the good job I had, boom, gone. Everything just left, went to St. Louis, and never looked back. And it's been fucking awesome. It's been hard, but it's been worth it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said you were from a small town. St. Louis is definitely not a small town. How was that adjustment?
No, bro. I'm from 3,000 people in the middle of the desert in Texas. Like, no trees, just looks like Tatooine on Star Wars. It's wild.
Well, shit, man. What was the biggest adjustment from going from the small town to the big city? Or was it was it hard, or was it awesome because there's all these places to eat, or what was up?
I mean, it wasn't. I don't know how to explain it. Because I don't do anything. Like, whenever I was there, like, I would literally just go to training, work out, and then be on the road for shows. Anything else, I was at my home, laying on the floor. I slept on the fucking floor for 3 years while I was there, for the record. I'd go home, lay on the fucking floor, and watch TV. And then that was about it. I'd never go out. I don't really drink much. Like, I'll drink if on occasion, you know what I mean? If I have the time, like, after a show with the boys or something, or just, yeah. But that's not my go-to, my cup of tea. But I would just chill, man. Like, that's literally, I didn't make friends or anything. Like, I made friends with the boys, but I saw them enough on the road to where I didn't really want to hit them up during the week after being with them all weekend and be like, hey, let's keep hanging out. So, it was mainly just training, dude. That's all I ever really did. And fucking lay around, be on the road.
You were also in 2017. You were able to do the Top Prospects tournament. Wrestling guys like John Schuyler, kind of doing the loop with them. Did you learn anything like maybe wrestling guys, maybe like the top prospects in a setting like that, other than wrestling? Just kind of being an enhancement.
I definitely learned a great many valuable lessons during the Top Prospect tournament, and a lot of them didn't have anything to do with me. The one thing I learned for myself during that is sell more, and I've fucking definitely been doing that. So, but one of the big lessons that I took away from that, there was a guy, I'm not going to name names, in the Top Prospect tournament, and he threw a fit that he wasn't winning the first round match, like that he was getting eliminated, and he didn't like throw a childish fit. Well, he did, but like in a little girl way. Like he stammered off and like hid himself until 2 minutes before the fucking match was starting, and it was a televised match, a match that you don't just go out there and call on the fly nowadays, you know what I mean, like for Ring of Honor. And he was in such a bitchy mood that he was gonna go out there and try to call a match on the fly for television because he was pissed off that he wasn't winning. And everybody backstage was just like, fuck that guy, he's never coming back, blah, blah, blah. And that was a lesson. I just watched the whole thing go down. I was like, I'll never be that guy.
Yeah, fuck. Through, Glory Pro and Ring of Honor, everything, you were able to go down to the New Japan Dojo. Maybe New Japan and the style of training they do in Japan is that legendary stuff. Like you said, your favorite Chris Benoit. We've heard Too Cold Scorpio talk about it and things like that. Maybe take us through a day of all the shit they had you guys do.
Okay. I remember the first day. We'll go through the first day. I got there. Everybody was all nervous, didn't know what to expect. We go in there and we sit down. We're not allowed to wear our shoes in the building. We have to take them off outside and spray them with alcohol wraps and put them in cubbies. And then we'd go in there and we'd put on our indoor shoes, is what they called them. And it was just brand new pair of workout shoes we'd had to buy. And then we wait. Scorpio Sky shows up. Rocky Rivera shows up, and we're just like, oh shit. And then Shibata walks around the corner and he's got a kendo stick and he just fucking smacks the girl real hard, and everybody gets real scared and looks up and he goes, good morning. And everyone's like, oh shit, good morning. And that's about the extent of his English right there. We would stretch it out. We'd like roll our necks, do our arms, our legs, our hips, like backs, just stretch for a good 10 minutes. And then we would do squats. And then we would do push-ups. And then we would do sit-ups. And then we would do back extensions. And I don't mean just like fucking 50 squats, you're done. No, we did like 300, like 200 push-ups, like 100 or 200 sit-ups. Like, it was excessive. But it was more or less one of those things like, see how bad you guys want it. Like, if you quit, then we're just going to kind of have no use for you. Because I saw a bunch of guys throughout the week that kind of would give up halfway through workouts, and they would just kind of disregard them after that. But the guys that kept pushing through, they were the ones getting all the critiques, the ones that they could tell wanted to be there, that wanted it more than just to be there. We would always... it was a lot of like just cardio, like hardcore intense, just like up down to like burpees and circuit workouts, battle ropes, fucking kettlebells, all sorts of shit. It was just like I threw up after the first fucking set of workouts because I just was not ready. But it was cool because like the first restroom break we got is whenever my body was like, okay, it's time to throw up. And I went in the restroom and I just got to hide and throw up on myself and got it out of my system, and then went and kept going. Like, and there was no, like, everybody expects it to be like, oh, they beat the shit out of you guys, they hit hard, they do this and that. Like, we didn't really go through any of that shit. Like, it was more or less the basics of Japanese pro wrestling, rather than forearms and chops and just fucking each other up. It was like a lock-up, headlock, shoot-off tackle, like shoulder tackle. And we broke that down throughout the entire week. And breaking that down taught us so much. Like, it expanded our fucking views on so many different things just from learning how they do those things there. And it's so much fucking different than America, because America works for TV, they work for the cameras, they work for the crowd. Japanese, they're not really even working. They're fucking, no, they're not. But like, they like, fuck, he gets mad. You don't fucking like. You don't focus on the cameras there as much as you would in America, essentially. I don't want to go too in depth and then somebody important hear this and then just be like, oh, what the fuck is he doing exposing the business, even though everybody fucking knows. But you know what I mean? Just the little secrets that I got to keep. But it was super intense. We would go to lunch. After lunch, we'd have 30 minutes lunch. We'd get back. We'd do rolls in the ring. And then hitting the ropes is the most intense thing in the world in Japan. I had huge welts and burns up and down my back by the time the camp was over just from running the ropes, because Shibata wanted it in a very specific way. Because modern days guys run the ropes with their back flat on it, and they'll put like a hand on the middle rope in case the top rope breaks. And in old school ways, you would run and hit the ropes with your side, like your lat and your fucking side of your back. And your body's not conditioned for taking impact right there. And so we had to condition and to hitting the ropes as hard as we could with the sides, and everybody was just bruised and fucking nasty looking. It looked like you got shot with a beanbag gun. Like, it was hardcore. But yeah, learning a Japanese headlock was very hard for me. Like, I remember I kept slapping myself in the head and pointing like finger guns at my temple and acting like I was shooting myself because I couldn't get it. And Shibata was like standing right there, like trying to show me what to do right. And finally, when I got it, it was just one of those, just like, like finally, like hell yeah, like. And it's just your body control, like it's so different there because they're so not stiff, but like they're into what they're doing. Like they're legit fucking wrestling each other. So I don't know. It's fucking hardcore, bro.
Do you? I mean, what's next for you? I mean, are you going to go back down there and train? Are you going to go maybe to Japan to try to train? Where do you kind of see yourself, or where are you going to?
None of us. My fucking goal is Japan, 100%. My dream is WrestleMania. My goal is Japan. Once I hit my goal, then I'll reach for the dream and make that the goal. So right now, like, WrestleMania is just a child's fucking dream. But of course, I want to be there someday. But I would love to get to Japan first. Like, if for some reason, like, and I'm not even saying I have no. There's not one part in my head where I'm like, I'm definitely going to be in fucking WWE someday, because none of us really fucking know. There's so much good talent out there. Like, I'm not saying I suck or anything, but, like, I've got my eyes on other places as well as there. You know what I mean? I'd like to get all I can out of wrestling before going to the end-all, be-all, which is WWE. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
Like guys like Kyle O'Reilly and them did. Like, that's how I want to do it. Like, go to England, go to fucking Germany, go to Japan, go to Australia. Like, and then finally WWE will be like, this dude's done it all. Fuck yeah. Like, I won't have to go get some dumbass gimmick that I sink or swim with. No.
Yeah, I got you, man. If someone wants to reach out and talk to Curt Stallion online, how would they do so?
My Facebook page is Curt the Lone Star Stallion. My Twitter is @Curt Stallion with a C for the record. And my Instagram is Curt_Stallion. And nobody can have my Snapchat because that's personal. I put dumb shit on there.
All right, well, fuck yeah, man. I appreciate you jumping on today.
Dude, I appreciate you having me. Hopefully I didn't just ramble and sound like a jackass the whole time, because I tend to do that occasionally.
No, you. And there you have it, folks. Had a lot of fun talking to old Curt Stallion there. And if you want to talk to me on Twitter at JGProWrestling, SoundCloud.com/JGProWrestling. Have a YouTube, have an Instagram too. Everything is always up on WrestlingWithWrestling.com, covering all four corners of the ring. And up next on episode 19 of the 012 Pro Wrestling Podcast, talk to a friend of the show, Cincinnati, Ohio's own host of Podcast Wrestling Society, Troy Adams. How's it going, everybody? This is Jay Grandi here for the 012 Pro Wrestling Podcast, here with host of Podcast Wrestling Society, Troy Adams. How you doing today?
Hey, how's it going, man?
So you just got back from WrestleMania week, but you actually saw a few wrestling stars even before the plane took off, right?
Yeah. I didn't realize, I didn't think about it until after the fact, but my plane left, my flight there was on a Wednesday, and the night before, SmackDown was in Nashville, and my layover was in Nashville, and I didn't have to deplane. It was one of them where, if you're going to the next stop, then stay on the plane. If not, you get off. and I'm sitting there on the plane. All of a sudden, me and some of the other, there was a couple other guys on the plane that were going to Mania, and we're all in the back of the plane, and they're like, hey, look, it's AJ Styles, and it's, you know, Daniel Bryan came on, and there was a couple others, and we're like, wow. And then all of a sudden, the entire SmackDown at 205 Live roster came on. I'm like, that's right. They performed in Nashville last night. I completely forgot. So that was cool. And I actually, I sat next to Jamie Noble on the way down there.
Oh, did you wind up talking to him?
I said hi to him and how you doing, and that was about it. And then he was on his phone watching UFC most of the flight.
Nice. That's awesome. So, I mean, now how was your trip to New Orleans?
It was definitely an experience. All the wrestling related stuff was really cool. All the food was good, and the experience of the actual WrestleMania week was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. But there's also wrestling fatigue that kind of takes place. And you were there on 205 Live. I review it. So watching it live, you just saw a major distraction happen in the crowd, a big cheering, and then we later find out.
Right.
Yeah, we later find out.
Me and my buddy are sitting there, and we hear this, because the crowd's basically dead through most of the show. I mean, they pop a few times, but nothing major. And during the Drew Gulak and Mark Andrews match, we start hearing this random, like, these chants. And we look over and we're like, what the heck? And my buddy points out, he's like, dude, that guy fell asleep in the back row. And I just leaned right back, mouth open, everything. The crowd's chanting, please wake up, please wake up. And then the security goes to check on him, and they start chanting, he's not dead. He's not dead. And then when he finally wakes up, he looked like he was a little embarrassed or, out of it at first. And the crowd like popped huge when he wakes up. And then they start chanting, how's your nap? How's your nap? And then the guy was like the most over guy on the rest of 205 Live after that.
How was he reacting to being woken up? Because, I mean, I hate being startled woken up, but I can't imagine being woken up to an arena of people cheering you on. Was he happy? Was he kind of just coming to?
At first, he seemed like I don't know if he was embarrassed or if he was trying to figure out what was going on. But for a while there, he didn't. He was just kind of sitting there and ignoring people. And then after a while, he started getting into it and everything. He'd stand up and like put his hands up, and the crowd would like pop for him. And then he started doing the old like the Bruce the Barber and CM Punk taunt, like he puts his hands up like he's going to take a nap, and the crowd would chant or cheer, and he would do that to different sides of the crowd. And they would all cheer for him. And during the dark match, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Dolph Ziggler, Dolph actually he stopped what he was doing, and he looked back, and he slowly walked to the ropes and just mean mugged the guy.
Huh. How was the interaction between Dolph and the napping fan?
The guy was just kind of continuing to do his playing to the crowd and everything, and Dolph was just kind of mean mugging him the whole time. And I think Dolph was using it because Shinsuke used the distraction to come up and hit the reverse exploder on him and everything. So it was weird how it worked out.
And that's not the only time the crowd kind of shifted away from the action in the ring that week. And I mean, I was there live too. You were there live at WrestleMania. So we saw the main event, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, the beach balls and everything. And as far as match goes, that's not my favorite. But being there live, I have to say that that was one of my favorite experiences of WrestleMania weekend, just to see what took place. What did you think of that match being there?
Well, my friend that went with me, that was the guy to my left. The guy to my left actually writes for, I found out he writes for NoDQ.com. And so he was, I was glad he wasn't one of the I know what's going to happen before it happens kind of guys, or, I like the independence better type, because we had a few of those around us at Mania, and they're kind of annoying when you're trying to enjoy a WWE show. But, but the three of us in that row, we were Roman Reigns fans, and then there were a few sprinkled around us. And then there were a few, like the ones you mentioned, that just didn't care and booing the whole time. But the cool thing was when Roman came out, the guy next to me stood up and like cut this huge promo on the crowd. He started yelling, and he's like, "You guys can't stand it. You love him. You're on your feet, but you boo him. And he's Vince McMahon's moneymaker. I bow to you, Roman Reigns." And he's like, "If you all hated him, you wouldn't be here right now." And he's just like cutting this long promo during Roman Reigns' entrance, yelling at the crowd. And he's getting the people around us fired up. You can tell they're getting ticked off. But it was like the greatest thing I ever saw. Me and my friend are like laughing our asses off. It was great.
Because I was up there, so when I saw these beach balls getting bounced around, I saw fans grabbing the beach balls, security having to stop the fans from grabbing the beach balls while trying to catch the beach balls. What did you think of that whole scene?
It was weird, but the thing is, there were 78,000 people there, and not everybody felt the same way. There were small patches of people in different areas of the arena, and there were a few beach balls, but they weren't all over,
Sure.
And then there were a few chants that got started up at different times. Somebody tried to start the wave, and that quickly died.
Oh yeah.
Somebody started to CM Punk chant, and that died after about 10 seconds. And, you're not going to get 78,000 people that are, going to participate in this stuff. But yeah, there were a handful of beach balls, but I don't know. It wasn't like, you could tell, like, that was definitely the most hostile crowd towards a match that I had been a part of live.
Oh, for sure. Podcast Wrestling Society brought you to Mania there, but how did that all come about? With you, Greg, Kyle?
I originally, years ago, before podcasting was a thing, it was a thing, but it wasn't hugely popular like it is now. I wanted to do something basically like what I am now, or similar. And I was, I started something on YouTube, and it died after, a couple weeks, and I would only get a couple of views for my videos, and I wasn't really into it at the time. And I at the time I called it the YouTube Wrestling Society. For some reason, I kept that name, and I carried it over to my podcast, and my buddies liked it. And at first it was just me, and then I asked my friend Greg to get in on it with me, and because he was interested. And then my friend Kyle seemed like, well, he was interested, and I know he's not a big fan of the independents and stuff like that, but he watches Raw and SmackDown and the pay-per-views faithfully. And if there's an NXT takeover, he'll watch that. So I know I can count on him for reviews and stuff like that. And he talks to other wrestling fans, so he gets their take on it as well. So he can kind of contribute that way with, what the talk is among fans and stuff. So it's the structure of the podcast has changed a lot since episode 1, but basically, we've always done the news, and now we've thrown in MMA and UFC and Bellator and stuff like that, news from there as much as we possibly can. And then we do top 10 lists, because those are some of my favorite things, like when Wrestling with Regret, What Culture and Cutaholics and stuff like that do those on YouTube. Those are some of my favorite things. So Greg and I, who love wrestling from now until, its inception, basically, we do top 10 lists. and Kyle and I will review the big things, like we just did a review at the Superstar Shakeup and gave our opinions on it. That podcast should be up.
What brand do you think fared better?
I think looking back at the full list on both shows, I think both shows actually did pretty well if they utilized the talent that they got the way they should. Especially, certain big names that went to both shows. But I'm more excited about the SmackDown side of it.
Oh, for sure. When I heard Samoa Joe jumped over, and just knowing like Cesaro jumped over, especially how Cesaro swerved everybody, posting that picture of him, Finn, and Sasha on a plane, saying that they were going to go to South Africa. That was great. So they really do have maybe at least 4 or 5 of the top wrestlers, of the top 10 to 15 wrestlers in the world on one show, and that's rare.
Right, yeah, and the potential with, Cesaro, it looks like they're going to keep Sheamus and Cesaro together as the bar for a bit longer, which is fine for now, but with Samoa Joe over there now, you've got him versus AJ, which we haven't seen since TNA. We've got potential for him versus Daniel Bryan, which, we haven't seen since Ring of Honor, and that was, how many years ago. And I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch between him and Shinsuke. So, there's some great matches, or potential for matches there on SmackDown. For
sure. And going back, prior to the podcast and everything, how did you originally become a fan of wrestling? What was your first memory of pro wrestling?
I remember my father getting me into. He eased me into wrestling when I was a kid. I don't know if you remember the old Live Wire shows on Saturday mornings.
I most definitely do. I was a fan of those as well.
Yeah, he got me into those because I was awake at those times on Saturdays, and then Sunday mornings they had Superstars. I don't know how long that lasted, but it was basically the same formula for both shows where, they'd have a couple interviews, but they'd show what happened on Raw that week and kind of the rundown and do some hype videos and stuff. And that was my first taste of getting into WWF. And then he got me into actually watching Raw, and my first memories are I fell in love with The Undertaker right off the bat, and then at that time they were introducing Kane, so I got to get really into the Undertaker and Kane feud, and then at the same time I was getting into Stone Cold Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels all at the same time, and it's just the whole build-up with everything leading up to WrestleMania 14. And then my dad would also rent we had a Super Nintendo, and he rented the game called Royal Rumble, and he would turn it to WCW and be like, "Oh, do you remember Mr. Perfect and Diesel and Razor and whatever?" And he was like, "Oh, here they are here at WCW under different names." So I watched a little bit of WCW, but I had neighbors that were more into WCW than I was, and I was the WWF kid.
So what was your first memory of attending a wrestling event?
I'm trying to think. Well, actually, I think my first wrestling event that I ever attended live was, and this is going to be really weird, but because my dad never took me to any, growing up, we never really made time or anything like that for those things. But I think my first show I ever attended was a TNA house show when they came to Troy, Ohio, up north of Dayton. And then shortly after that, I attended Ring of Honor's Survival of the Fittest 2011.
Oh, cool.
So the TNA house show was fun. I got to see some of because I was a big TNA fan at the time. This was when Fortune was together, and I got to see all the members of Fortune. I got to see Kurt Angle, Abyss, and Generation Me, or the Young Bucks, and all those guys. So it was real fun for me. And then Survival of the Fittest was really awesome. I'd never been to anything like that before, like a Ring of Honor show. So it was really cool for me.
Just to finish off, you said what got you into wrestling was The Undertaker and Kane. Definitely heavily talking about The Undertaker. What did you think about everything they were doing with John Cena and The Undertaker at WrestleMania?
I don't know. I was torn because at one point it was like, man, I wish they would have had a match, like more of a match than just like him coming out and squashing John. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? That was fine. That was the second time I got to see Undertaker live, because the other time was me and Greg actually attended SummerSlam 2015 when he faced Brock Lesnar. It was the year that it was the return match after Brock had ended the streak. So it was cool getting to see The Undertaker live again. And this time was definitely more special because it was WrestleMania. And it was cool. I don't know where John Cena goes from here. Obviously, he's still John Cena, so it's not like, he's buried and he's not coming back from it. So, and I talked to a friend, and everybody kind of agreed. They were like, man, like The Undertaker seemed great. He was moving around great, and he was spry and everything. I said, yeah, and it was great, and what he did well, but you could tell at the end of, less than 3 minutes, he was still sucking wind. Mm-hmm. So, the age has caught up with him. So I'm kind of glad he didn't try to have a long, drawn-out match with John.
I mean, I enjoyed talking to you today. If someone else wants to come out and reach out to you, how do they talk to you? How do they reach you on the internet?
Well, on Facebook, it's facebook.com/PodRes Society. That's PODWRES Society. And same on Twitter, it's @PodRes Society, and Instagram, just search for PodRes Society. And then our YouTube, we don't have a URL yet because you have to have over 100 subscribers until they let you change your URL to something custom. So if you search for Podcast Wrestling Society, you'll find our YouTube channel that's got some archived episodes and some fun clips and stuff that will, if you want a taste for the podcast without getting the whole thing, I would definitely suggest going to our YouTube page. But if you want the whole thing, definitely we're on Podomatic. It's podcastwrestlingsociety.podomatic.com, or just search for us on iTunes.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
No, thank you, man.